were unmuted, so.
Oh, there she is. Hi. Do you want to start?
You can call the meeting.
Okay, so we'll start the meeting now. This is Environmental Sustainability Advisory Board. Meeting will begin. Kathy, will you have the preliminary comments?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Richardson, the City Sustainability Director, and I just had a couple housekeeping items for tonight's Zoom meeting. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. Please remember to mute yourself during the meeting when you're not speaking. The chat function for this public meeting is disabled. All chats will go directly to me, and this comment is for board members on Zoom, and everybody's in person, so I'll skip over that. You would have your video on if that were the case, if you were on Zoom. And just a reminder that the city reserves the right to mute people or turn individual videos off to minimize distractions during the meeting. Now I'll turn the meeting back to you, Nancy.
Okay, can you put up the
Yes.
agenda, please?
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so I'd first like to start off with introductions. We have two new board members. So that's Joe, is it pronounced Fearn?
Fearn, yeah.
Fearn, okay, and Patrick Ross. So I thought it'd be worthwhile just spending a couple minutes introducing ourselves, telling everybody what our background is. So you want to start, Joe?
Sure. My name is Joe Fearn. My wife and I have lived in Lawrence for about 4.5 years. I've been in landscape management for decades now, and currently employed at KU. I'm excited about this position because I think that citizens have an obligation, a responsibility to push government to be sustainable. And I also believe that government has a responsibility to pull citizens towards sustainability. And I'm hoping that my role here has a small ability to impact both of those aspects. So I look forward to being here, mostly to learn the first couple, and then imagine I'll have opinions about some stuff. So thank you very much.
Great, welcome. Okay, Chris?
You want me to just go around?
Yeah,
Okay,
just-
Chris Reimer. I've been in Lawrence for a little over 2 years now. I'm originally from Emporia. My background's in geography, and I work for the Land Institute as their land relations research manager.
Cool, yeah, I'm Josh Roundy. I've lived in Lawrence now 11 years. I'm a professor at KU in the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department. My specialty is in water and climate in that area, so yeah.
Hi, my name is Chloe Chaffin, they, she. I have lived in Lawrence since July of 2024. I am an MPA student at KU, and I work for Loud Light as a fellowship manager. It's just a civic engagement organization for young people.
Okay. I'm Nancy Mumba. I'm a professor and chair of the Department of Pharmacology and Toxicology at KU School of Pharmacy. And I've been an activist in environmental groups throughout the city in the past 20 years here.
Hi, my name is Patrick Ross. I was born and raised in Lawrence, Kansas. Moved back to town a couple of years ago. Been involved with a lot of local environmental activism, coming to a lot of city commission meetings, and excited to join this board and see what I can contribute. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Mohsen Fatemi. I'm almost done with my PhD at KU in public administration, and I study electric utilities and regulations that apply to them.
Great. Welcome to both of you. What we need to start off with is to consider the minutes of the December meeting that were posted. I hope everybody got a chance to read them. Any comments? We have a motion to accept the minutes of the December meeting.
I motion to accept the minutes of the December meeting.
All in favor? Or second, sorry, second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Now we need to consider the minutes of the January meeting. Now, we would like to consider them with the title change, because right now, what's posted does add all of the us, they weren't posted originally with our names being present, but the board, the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Board, is not in the title. So with that title added, are there any comments on the minutes of that meeting? I have a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay, so now it's time for public comment concerning things that are not on our agenda. So our agenda is regarding Ordinance 9744. So if there's any public comment about other items, we'd like to take that now. If your comments are on Ordinance 9744, we will take them in order during our discussion.
Let me minimize this to see if there's
Okay.
anyone on Zoom, public comment.
Any comments? Okay, seeing none, let's move on. So we'd like to discuss Ordinance 9744. We started this discussion at our January meeting when staff presented us the idea that they would like to support repealing this ordinance and replacing it with a commitment to the Douglas County, what am I going to say? Would you give me the title of it? What's the Douglas County?
It's Adopt Douglas County a Climate Action and Adaptation Plan.
Thank you, I couldn't get the title quite right. So their idea was to accept that as an alternative. So,
Can I give just a brief update?
yes, please.
So for tonight's meeting, I did not plan to have another presentation. So the presentation was in January. As staff, we're really looking forward to more feedback and conversation on this. So really just kind of giving that space for you all. And I know that there's probably going to be some public comment as well. But I did want to just address the work session item. So after the January meeting, you know, that next step slide that we went over was staff telling the two boards that we were going to move forward with setting up a work session with City Commission, because we don't want to do a whole lot of work on this if this is not even the direction that the commission wants to go. So it's like that checkpoint. And we had that scheduled, and it got removed from the agenda. So it got posted like it was going to happen, and then the next day it got crossed out as deferred. And the reason why it was deferred is there was a lot on the agenda that night, and we had doubled up on work sessions. There was already another work session that evening. So this wasn't a time-sensitive item, so we went ahead and said, when is the next available time that we can be in front of commission and have this conversation? And so they are looking at April dates. You know, just tentatively put it on your, you know, radar for April 14th as that possible date for this discussion at the city commission level. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There has been some feedback from public on opposition to repealing this. I think our discussion in January was also in that vein, that we preferred not to repeal it. And Mohsen has put forth some suggestions on why we wouldn't want to repeal it and an amendment to 9744. So I hope everybody had the opportunity to read those, and I'd like, Mohsen, if you would want to start to lead the discussion of that, would you?
Sure. I don't want to repeat what I've already written, just as a starter. I think this is a valuable goal that the city has had and adopted. Of course, it has its problems, but the decision to repeal the policy would mean that we don't want to pursue this goal, particularly if we're replacing it with a double commitment to the county's climate action plan. because that plan is already a high-level plan that gives us the opportunity to tailor our strategies to our needs. And if we're not replacing it with an actionable plan, then we're basically dismissing the issue. So this would be an opportunity for us to learn from the last 5 years why this policy didn't work and address those problems rather than repealing it. So one idea that I had, and I don't know everything, I think it would be like coming up with an action plan for this ordinance to complement it with an implementable tool to guide us with a more informed and evidence-based, knowledge-based criteria to pursue it. So one of the problems with the current policy is that the goals are not reasonable. And now we have the opportunity to make them reasonable and also come up with solutions to achieve those goals. So that's basically everything that is said there. And it would be great for us to have a discussion, come up with solutions, how to address this and how to make this policy better if we think it's a valuable goal.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be a mistake to repeal the ordinance without either replacing it with something or amending it. And I think that if we add milestones and goals and a way to achieve that and give us some opportunity to really dig into it, then we'll be able to meet some of these goals. I think the 9744 right now is too ambitious, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to attain some of these goals. And I feel like if we don't do anything more than just repeal and replace with the Douglas County overarching high level, then we're not going to make those goals at all. I don't think that by just repealing it, we're going to get there. So what do other people think?
I was going to say, I think if you look at the Douglas County plan, right, they have actionable items in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess my question is why would we have to come up with different actionable items unless we didn't agree with them? So if we agree with them, why don't we just make those action items our action items in that sense, right? And then we're working with the broader community towards those. So like, for example, I just pulled it up so I could remember what they were, right? Like they said they're 2030, 38.5% decrease in greenhouse gas emissions. And they say 5% existing house units, commercial buildings retrofitted to be 20% more efficient per year. These seem like things we've been trying to work towards. So I guess that's just where I'm like, why do we need to recreate the wheel if we're happy with what's in there?
Okay. Well, I don't think that we have a way to get there, or we're not being held to get there. So there's not, there's no one who is responsible for getting there.
Right. So I do agree with that, but I don't think we need to like create new things. I think we can say we want to hold ourselves responsible to the things in there. So maybe it's the wording and the way we say we're going to adopt it. Because I agree, like if we just say, oh, we're going to adopt it, let's forget about it, we adopted it, great, right? You know what I mean? Like I do think there needs to be more teeth to that adoption
Okay.
so that we are actually held accountable to doing those things. But I think, from my perspective, I'm just like outlining, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? What are the goals? I mean, I think it's reasonable to say if we're going to adopt it, then we should try to adopt the goals that they outline in their plan.
Okay.
And like, okay, how's the city going to get a 38.5% reduction in greenhouse gases? How are we going to track that? What are we going to do, right? So that's sort of action items. I don't know, and I'm not a legal person to know, like, what's the difference in terms of how much do we have to put into the document in terms of there's a lot of laws that get passed and then don't do anything.
Right.
Is it even possible, because I think this is probably the same reason why the first one didn't work out, is they passed this great law, but they didn't have any action items to do it. and/or resources to make it happen, right?
So I think what you say is, we are saying
Yeah, I
the same
think
thing.
we are, but I just think, I
And
guess I'm a little more optimistic.
When I'm thinking about an action plan for this, is thinking about those things and thinking about this, the current 9744 sets goals, I don't know based on what. So I wasn't there, so I don't know what was considered. But first, we need to, yes, consider all those action items that we have in the county's climate action plan, but again, but still, they are goals. We need actionable steps, like we do this, and this specific unit or person will do that, and they are in charge, they are accountable to it. So, in this plan, then we need to ground it based on all those guiding frameworks that we have and come up with actionable steps. And I think we're saying the same thing.
Right, I guess, yeah, and I read your thing briefly, so I could have misinterpreted some aspect. It just felt very like the county climate plan is not good.
No.
And maybe that's just the way I took it, and so I agree. I think we're on the same page then. 'cause
If I
think-
implied that, I apologize to
Yeah,
the
no, and
county.
that could be just how I read it too. So I agree, we're on the same page. Like, I think the county climate plan is great. I think we should adopt it.
Well, it's already been adopted.
Yeah, right.
But I
like,
think the idea here is that we got to do more than just say we're going to follow it. We've got to have some teeth.
and so I guess my question is from a legal perspective, which I don't know, is that possible to put teeth into an ordinance? Because there wasn't one in the previous
Teeth
one.
would be an action plan. Like, we say we want to go to Vegas. That's our goal. How? Are we going to drive? Are we going to get our tickets? Do you get the tickets or I get the tickets? So those are the things that, the policy doesn't
And that's what
say,
I'm saying, is like, those things are in the county plan, right? So that things.
they are still at the goal level.
Sure, right. But again, like, is the city going to pass anything that says this thing is responsible for this? I don't know. Like, this is a legitimate question for me. Is like, is it within the framework of these sort of ordinances to actually put action plan in them? And this is just a question I have.
Yeah, why not? I think so. Like, the current 9744 puts the city manager in charge.
Is that an action plan, though? I don't think.
No, that's not an action plan.
That's what I'm saying, like, you could put somebody in charge.
That's the gap.
Yeah, that's the
That's the
gap.
gap in the current policy. It doesn't say
Exactly.
how.
Right, and so what I'm asking is putting it into the ordinance the right mechanism for making sure an action plan happens?
That's the purpose of having policies and ordinances. If not, then why do we adopt them?
I mean, so like, again, like, this is just a nuance, and like, if we've adopted the county plan, what right now, what does that even mean for the city?
Anything that we do should not be in violation of that higher level plan. So we learn from it, we take from it, and we elaborate on it, and we add more details to it. So that's a guiding framework for the more detailed action plan that happens or is going to be developed for the city.
Can I maybe
Yeah.
try to understand what's happening here? Like, what I'm hearing is like a concern of if we want to take this countywide plan, I think like there's some things in the countywide plan where the goals are at the county level, and the assumption that Lawrence would be tracking at the same rate is like embedded there. But you could meet these goals and the city of Lawrence could do nothing, and all of the impact could be happening in other parts of the county. So I do think there's some like language, if we were to put it in the ordinance, that we're adapting this, that we clarify where we're contributing as a city to this county level plan. I think that should happen. But what I'm hearing is should that be an ordinance that we develop a county act, or a city level plan that is informed by this county level plan? Or is the ordinance itself the plan, is what I'm hearing,
That's
right?
what I'm kind of trying to figure out, right? Like, I just don't understand, like, what's actually gonna create something that will be followed and done.
Well, I think, for instance, we need to have, annual reports on whether we reach our goal, or if we haven't, then what we do to mitigate that problem. That would be one piece of it. We would have to have responsibility for someone who would do the reporting and make sure that the reporting happens. It didn't happen on this ordinance. And then, as you said, Chris, we need to have things that are really focused on the city versus the county at large. I think those are some of the things that we could make recommendations for an ordinance or for a modification of the ordinance, or an amendment, or however you want to change it, rather than just repealing it, saying, okay, we're going to adopt this plan, but this is how we're going to adopt the plan.
And I get that, and my interpretation of what Mohsen sent was, really it's not, the ordinance isn't where the actual, like, city level goals and, like, that's not where it's going to live. The ordinance is really outlining what are the mechanisms and expectations of the city, and what are those, like, accountability mechanisms. So every year a report is submitted to whom, like, clarifying that.
Yeah.
What is that group of people supposed to do with that report? If things in the report aren't meeting or tracking on the milestones that are set in the ordinance, what are the mechanisms for, like, redistributing funds to make sure we can meet that, or making adjustments to the plan? So I think, like, the ordinance itself is laying out that, like, cadence and expectations for the city. And so my understanding is, like, one thing in that ordinance is we repeal the current one, we adopt this one with direction to the city that the first step would be a city level plan informed by this with explicit contributions of the city to this goal, like, right? And then somebody reviews that. I don't know if that's us. Probably not. But somebody reviews that, and then we all agree in the ordinance of, okay, if that doesn't get done, what comes next?
I definitely think it should be shared with us,
Oh,
right?
of course.
And something that we could discuss, right?
Of course.
But not, we're not.
We don't have any power. Like,
Yeah, we have no
Yeah,
real,
it should
I
go
think that's
to the
part of
city
my other
commission.
thing is like, going back from what we did last time, we spent a lot of time working on the other thing, but then it kind of fizzled. And like, I don't want to spend like hours trying to come up with these action items
Yeah.
that I feel like are pretty laid out well here. And what we really need is the city to say, we are willing to put resources to meeting these, right? Because that's what's going to make the difference, right? They need to put the resources, like, who's going to be tracking these things? Who are going to do that? And I just don't know if writing out a new ordinance is going to give them that. And I don't know if there's other ways that we should be trying to support them to be actionable about the plan itself.
Well, I just think that outline that we just sort of talked about is to have some structure of somebody to whom it's accountable, or
Maybe that's us, I
held
don't know.
accountable. It has to be reported every year to the city commission. There has to be mitigation if we don't. I mean, those are the sorts of outlines, and kind of, what Mohsen had done, I think. I don't think we need to have all the goals. The goals are set through the county. I think, I agree with you. The county did a great job.
I mean, I think, and again, like, I'm really blurry on where we can have leverage. But I think, like, we would agree, and based on our experience with the last recommendation that went to the city commission, this would be a similar, because that's what our mechanism is. We make a recommendation, and then they consider it, or they don't, and then we move on. So it sounds like you would say the recommendation is like, these are great goals, but in the ordinance that we would be recommending, not drafting ourselves, because that would come from city staff,
Yeah.
we would say that there needs to be a portion of the ordinance that outlines how much financial resources are going to be put towards meeting this goal. And that would be one of the things that we would say. You have, like, the ordinance would explicitly state how much money would go towards meeting these goals over the next X year, until 2050.
I don't think we've really put a budget on there.
I'm not saying,
Or-
I'm not saying we put the budget, I'm saying,
Yeah.
we say, for this to have teeth, you have to make a commitment, a financial commitment, in order to actually pursue this instead of just adopting it. So that's like, from my understanding, that is at the scale of what our board does, is like, hey, we're seeing that rather than just a blanket repeal and replace, we should repeal and replace with some parameters. An expectation that you explicitly outline how much money you're going to put towards this, so that that's included in the ordinance. An expectation that you'll have like a transparency tracker that the public can access, so that there's transparency. Like, those are the things that we can recommend.
Well, we
And
can
then-
recommend an annual report,
Yeah.
and we can recommend someone to come in and mitigate and make suggestions on how we can get to where we expect to be each year, and that there's someone who is accountable for this.
Yeah, I think we're
So
saying.
these sorts of lists of things, not just money, because I don't know that they'll, necessarily do money, but there should be somebody who is out there writing grants to achieve some of these goals, or outlining what the cost savings would be. If you invest now, this is how much money you're gonna save, just like I bought solar panels for my house, and now my bills are like nothing each month. But that's the sort of thing I think we need some accountability for.
Yeah, I think we're kind of like coming to some common agreement. Like, for
Yep.
me, it's, okay, a repeal and replace versus don't repeal it and just modify it with some, I'm impartial on that. I think what's important is that we're making the recommendation of what good governance looks like at the city level, pursuing a county level plan.
Yeah.
What does that look like? And I think that we're all in agreement that we have ideas of what that looks like. And all we can do is make a recommendation. And I don't know if that recommendation is you, the city, should work with us to define that. Or if we spend the time, like Josh said, spend the time trying to draft a list of, it's an annual report, it's a community meeting, and then we send that, and then the same thing happens last time, where it's like we spend all that time and then we don't get, nothing comes of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the effective next step is.
Yeah.
Can I just clarify process? So this topic is going to go to commission. Like I said, it's tentatively scheduled right now for April 14th. And that is through a staff presentation. So the
Right.
commission had asked staff to work on this and to work with the two boards. At this point, this board is having more conversations around it. I know Connected City did not. They want to know what the feedback or direction is going to be from commission before they, maybe have more conversation around it. And they want to see what a draft, resolution could look like. And then they want to, have those conversations and give feedback. So they've chosen to do that. You all have chosen to have more conversation around this, which is good, You have one more meeting, so the March meeting before that April presentation. So the process, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if this board wanted to, agrees on, what they would like to propose or, say to commission, you could be working on something that you approve at the March meeting, and then it would get attached to the city commission agenda item for that April 14th. Again, it is a staff presentation, but certainly, during that presentation, we're also going to say, hey, we met with these two boards in January, with one board, there was continued conversations and, maybe not 100% in agreement with the recommendation of staff. That's okay to say. And if you all have something that you want to communicate to commission. So I just wanted you to know that it wasn't one of those things that you're pushing something that is not already in conversation or
Yeah, no,
scheduled
no, I
for the
know.
future. It is scheduled, or, tentatively, but once we get full confirmation, I'll let you know. But this means that you'll have one more meeting if you want to, if you're going to work on something to, bring back to take a vote on in the March, if you want it to go that way.
Yeah. So we could make a recommendation and in a letter form, as we did in the previous iteration with utility.
And the main difference, to clarify, and make sure I'm hearing it right, the main difference is if we were to write a letter and make a proposal, like a recommendation, the other one was in a general meeting of the commission and it wasn't a priority item, we came up with that. Whereas this is, we are having a working meeting on this very thing, so that letter will get more attention.
Correct, there's going to be a discussion around this topic versus it being a consent agenda item, when there's not really discussion unless
They pull
one
it.
of the commissioners pulls the item. So this one is going to have conversation and is going to have public comment as well.
Okay.
So certainly when we've had presentations in the past, I know Mohsen and Nancy know this too, within public comment, if multiple of you all wanted to talk, you absolutely can have public comment on there. So I know it's happened in the past where several board members want to speak, and that's okay too. But if you want to have something that you all kind of agree on with messaging, and you want to formalize that in a written format, then that would be something that just gets attached to that agenda item, and one of you can address,
They'll talk, yeah.
can say, on behalf of the board, we took a vote in March, and this is what we want,
That makes sense.
So this is currently, the ordinance 9744 is in effect right now,
Correct.
all right? And city staff recommended to repeal it,
Correct.
right? Okay.
We have not recommended to repeal it to the city commission yet.
You've recommended it to this board.
Because the city commission wanted staff to work with the two boards, we basically, wanted to make sure we met with the two boards first
Yep.
and said the idea of hey, staff, this is what we're thinking. We're thinking that we're going to go to commission to recommend the ordinance be repealed.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think people think that recommendation's already been formalized. It has not.
Okay,
Because we haven't
okay.
had an opportunity to
But the
give
intent
that
is there.
presentation or have that conversation with the commission. But yeah,
Cities-
we've been,
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
open
yeah.
to, this is what staff would like to recommend. And it was posted
Yeah.
well, no, take it back. What was posted on the agenda so far was just that it was an update on the strategic plan environmental sustainability commitment. It's the presentation that had all the information about.
And that was at the
staff
joint meeting that took place recently. Okay.
in January,
The
yes.
difficult thing for me is being new to this, is trying to get up to speed so that I can make some kind of meaningful understanding and then possibly make a meaningful contribution to the discussion.
So you can go back and listen to that meeting, because it's
Yeah, yeah.
recorded, so that would probably be helpful.
I did a minimal research, but obviously not robust at this point based on the conversation that you guys are having. So it clearly makes clear to me that I need to do a little bit more homework. But I just think that, so I'm just going to talk at the 10,000-foot level. Just what I believe is that something is better than nothing. I'm curious to see, because in my experience, having something that is intentional does not mean that it's going to be operational.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that just because they teeth, so to speak, that's good, but it still doesn't make it accountable. And I just think that, and this is something that I feel is lacking often, is the marriage between the intention of any board or even upper administration in the city and the tip of the shovel application of it for the people who are doing this every single day. And so that's where I'm curious about how to put together both of them, but that's going to require me to listen more than talk. So, but I am intrigued, man. It's nice to hear that you guys are making these discussions, so that bodes well in my mind.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is very helpful, Kathy, in terms of seeing, because I do think that there is space for us to come up with maybe some short sort of recommendation right now. But by right now, I mean this meeting into next. So for April, that we can put some recommendations on what we think needs to happen instead of just blatantly repealing it, because I think we're all in agreement on that, right? Like, you know, I think that repealing it and just adopting the climate plan without any sort of action items is probably not a great idea, right? Or like, we need to have some sort of recommendation about, and I think it could be fairly simple at this stage, just saying that it needs to be replaced with some sort of how the city is going to meet the goals outlined in.
Operationalize it.
Yeah.
How the city's actually going to operationalize.
That, exactly. Like, and there might be many different ways that they do that, but there needs to be something in there that says, okay, we're not just adopting this, okay, great, checkbox, we're done, right? But we're actually going to do something about adopting it, right? And I think that's sort of what Mohsen was saying, what I was saying,
Yes.
and that we're all kind of on the same page, just probably coming at it from a different way.
Yeah.
In terms of the way we were thinking about it.
So could we take Mohsen's amendment proposal and use that as a starting point, and I'll come back with how we want to put a letter forth to the commission? Because I think Mohsen did a good job of outlining some of the possibilities, and we can come back and talk about it very specifically on how we want to list our recommendations to the commission. I think at this point we ought to hear some of the people in the public. Is that okay with everybody?
It's up to you, yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's open it up.
Usually you open up for public comment in the room,
Okay.
and then we switch to Zoom.
Would you like to speak?
Hi, my name is Christina Haswood. I am a program director at the 19-year-old nonprofit Climate and Energy Project, CEP. CEP works to support the transition to a carbon-free economic through programs and policies. And I'm also a lifelong resident of Lawrence, born and raised here, and I currently live in the Schweigler neighborhood. We write in opposition to repealing the Ordinance 9744 and encourage the advisory board to retain the ordinance and revise the ordinance language to strengthen the governmental implementation framework. The adoption of the 2020 ordinance has shown to help steer the city of Lawrence in the right direction in regards to the goal of reaching 100% renewable energy. Whether that be the usage of electric buses or adding rooftop solar to city buildings, the community values the efforts made in reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. Areas of concerns of this ordinance include the lack of implementation framework and fiscal responsibility presented the opportunity to revisit the ordinance and set ourselves up for success, as previously mentioned. A lot has been learned in the past 5 years of implementation of this ordinance, and setting up a clear objective and milestones will help us measure progress, that we all support that in effort. In conclusion, we rise in opposition to a complete repealing of Ordinance 9744 and support retaining the ordinance and revising the language with roadmap goals. We join in the efforts with other coalitions and encourage the Commission to work with Lawrence Environmental Sustainability Advisory Board and the ADAPT Douglas County Climate Adaptation Plan to achieve the goal of 100% renewable energy as we value the city and county partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we'll take comments from the people who are online. Let's start with Kay Johnson.
Hello.
Hi, Kay.
My camera's kind of dim. Thanks for having this meeting, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Kay Johnson, and I live in the Larkspur Edition, and 66047 is my zip code. And I was appointed to the Sustainability Advisory Board in 2019 and served for 5 years until it was decided to end the existing SAB board and create the new ESAB board as it exists in the current form today. I want to make a recommendation regarding the particular the fate of the Ordinance 9744. I was around to make recommendations for that, but I also feel like that there's a little bit missing here, and that is some historical perspective. Even before my time, there was an awful lot of hardcore technical information done by the City of Lawrence. Actually, the way you calculate greenhouse gas emissions is you take your utility bills and you number crunch, you do some things that are technical. And in early 2000s, and maybe even before that, the City of Lawrence was actively involved in calculating greenhouse gas emissions. And in 2009, there was a report, and Kathy has given you a lot of the links to these, and you could go back and look at some of these documents because they actually do refer to emission reductions. And then the 2009 report, there was a baseline set for the 2005 emission inventory, and it was 1,661,041 equivalent carbon dioxide tons. And that was considered the baseline at the time for 2005. And then that particular report goes on to say what emissions will be reduced until 2050. And after that, the city did quite a few activities, energy reductions, and energy conservation, and lots of different things where they were able to prove energy was reduced and the carbon emissions were reduced as well. Then in 2019, a report went to the City Commission outlining some additional goals. And this particular letter was April 10th, 2019, and Climate Protection Plan. And it was recommending that a budget of $100,000 be allocated to support research and updating of the Climate Protection Plan, which there was already a Climate Protection Plan in this 2009 report. So they're asking, and it was the chair of the SAB at the time sent the letter to the mayor and copied the existing city manager on it. Then part of that was to say, look, this need to be elevated to a much more urgent matter. The particular plan was for 80% of renewable energy for 2050. And so the people that were working on this decided that it needed to be elevated to 100% renewable energy by 2050. And so there were like 5 or 6, maybe 7 particular points of this letter, one of which was to update the action plan. And one of it was also to provide staff to do that. And another one was that in addition to a full annual review, a SAB member or members should be appointed as stewards of the plan to support staff in implementation, monitoring, and management of the plan going forward. So there were some really concrete things that were recommended to the city administration as well as the commissioners. And as the outcome of that, it was also somewhat, of course, COVID happened. 2020 was when the ordinance was actually adopted. COVID was right in the middle of that. And so a lot of things were really wonky because of COVID. But, and the city had started on its own strategic plan. And Kathy will, often refers to the strategic plan. So a lot of that was kind of piecemealed into the strategic plan instead of into a climate protection plan. And at the time, it was a joint office. Douglas County and the city of Lawrence had a joint office. So it was together that they worked on these things. And then a new city manager came in, and then it was decided to split the offices. And long and the short of it, some things got lost. The city did not develop its own action plan. And that's what needed to have happened, in my opinion, to get the ordinance off the dime. The city of Lawrence has always been ahead of Douglas County and has been working on this for several decades. Douglas County only came into this when this happened in, I don't know, 2022. I don't know, Kathy, you probably know a date, but so the thing is that it should not be lost that the city of Lawrence needs its own action plan. The ordinance should and can stay as 9744. My recommendation is that it not be repealed, that it be kept and enforced but amended to include real specific things, and including greenhouse gas emissions information, so that when projects are done, you can subtract those out and show that you can demonstrate that you're actually meeting those goals. And it's real important, because if you can't, you have to have a baseline, and then you have to have the projects, and then the projects have to be demonstrated that they are actually reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. And that is, in my opinion, kind of what is lacking at the Douglas County plan. Is it is lofty goals, and they don't have specifics. And I think Mohsen's amendment is a really good way to start out. And there's a lot of things, because I was in city administration. I am in another town before. Leaving the ordinance in place helps keep that in every other place that it's connected. So the MSO has reference in their capital policy to Ordinance 9744. The transit department has reference to the ordinance. If you go back, there's a great presentation that was made in December of 2024 about the transit and the transportation goals of switching the fleet to electric vehicles. There's really good information, but it refers to Ordinance 9744. I would hate to see that be lost, and I feel like that the best way to do that is just to update, amend it, and put more action and more teeth into the program. And absolutely, Douglas County's got a good program. It's just that Lawrence has always been ahead of that, and with more concrete activities. But there's no reason why that they can't dovetail in that options. And then Kathy can report to Douglas County on what's been done relative to city actions. Anyway, that's I'm sorry took me so long to get to recommendation for you, but that's what I would really like to see you guys look at. And it's not an easy thing. The whole thing is not an easy thing, and it takes money, it takes resources, it takes people to do it, and it's not just the will. You may have the will to do it, but you've got to have the resources to do it. And so the city does need to be held accountable for providing those resources. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. And I'm certainly willing to answer any questions, because I have been around a while.
All right, any questions for Kay? All right, thank you so much, Kay.
You're quite welcome, and thank you for letting me provide my opinion.
Very nice, thank you. David Collins, did you have comments you wanted to make? guess not. How about Wolf? Did you have comments you wanted to make?
She's a reporter.
I'm sorry?
Lawrence Times.
Lawrence Times, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so are there any more comments from the public? It appears not. Okay, any discussion based on what Kay said? Well, I'll comment, I think it's a good idea to keep the ordinance and the ordinance number instead of repealing and replacing. It sounds like it's integrated into lots of other policy, so it might, our recommendation might be to amend it rather than to replace it. Thoughts? Yeah?
If I could jump in here, I'm also like Joe, I'm trying to be cautious of overreaching. But I was fortunate to be able to be in a few Zoom sessions prior to this with Kay. I reviewed the joint board meeting in January. I think maybe where I'm coming from, I don't have a particular specialty in energy like some of the other board members. I would like to be more clear on ordinances, the type of legally binding mechanisms that were discussed earlier. But I'd say from at least the narrative with how all this unfolded, there were a lot of people in my circle that were very upset with the potential that the city of Lawrence would backtrack on climate goals. And I recognize that there are challenges that perhaps sort of led to this difficulty that we face now. But I think our goal should be to now look at this 5 years from when it was implemented, study and understand what went wrong. And I would say that Mohsen's work in addressing a lot of those matters, I think should be, I think it's a tremendous sort of framework to jump off of and to see what we like, what we don't like, what else we could do. I was in a meeting yesterday where I met the new economic development director for the city of Lawrence. And one of the things that I proposed to them was, you know, the discussion was primarily focused on tax abatements. And, you know, a thought I had was, if we're gonna offer tax abatements to businesses, why can't we also include expectations for renewable energy or considerations to those types of initiatives? And that's a way of dancing around some of the, you know, larger difficulties that I think Mohsen also pointed out, is that it will take a considerable amount of money to accomplish these goals. And if we can play a part in helping shape that narrative and champion the values of our community that are reflected in legislation, like I would imagine Plan 2040 has extensive you know, literature to that effect as well. If we can help guide that goal for the city, then that's what we should do. We should recommend that to the city, and ultimately the commissioners are going to be the ones that this decision falls to. And so, you know, I know that Mohsen didn't address all of the issues, but in some regards, I think it's fine if we don't solve all the problems, because the commissioners are going to want to get their hands on this as well. And to what Kate was referencing, I've reviewed that document that she was sort of dispersing, and she goes through year by year. And, you know, 2006, Mayor Buchheiberger, he signs the Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement. In 2008, Mayor Mike Dever appointed a Climate Protection Task Force, which presented the first greenhouse gas emissions inventory and recommended steps to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. In 2009, the Climate Protection Plan was submitted to the City Commission which outlines greenhouse gas emissions. In 2011, Peak Oil Task Force final report was presented. 2012, the city updated their greenhouse gas emissions inventory. In 2016, Lawrence received a 4-star rating for national excellence in sustainability. In 2017, Mayor Leslie Soden signed on to a statement with hundreds of mayors expressing support for the Paris Climate Agreement. 2018, Mayor Stuart Boley joined over 200 mayors from across the United States to express his support for the Clean Power Plan. We passed Ordinance 9744 in 2020. And then the 2021, the City Commission directed staff to integrate 5 sustainability principles based on the Green New Deal into plans and policies. And then in 2021, Lawrence and Douglas County will engage in the community in the development of a climate action plan. Now, I think the other things that stand out, going back to budgetary issues, is that we're talking about utility companies that are regulated by the state of Kansas. They have a statewide energy plan. And some of the challenges that we face locally are there is a mass solar array that's currently going through litigation right now. So, there's a lot of moving pieces. And I don't know if anyone's really solved this issue anywhere in the world. But I think, doing our best to study what we can do here and maybe suggest ambitious, out of the box ideas and lead in that capacity, that's what we should do in whatever capacity we can. So those are sort of my initial thoughts on the issue.
Thank you. So I'm hearing there seems to be some consensus about not repealing 9744 from our group and from comments at large that we've had from the public, that we think that the Douglas County plan has some really good goals, but we would like to have an amendment to 9744 that has some teeth and some other ways. What was your word? Operationalize. That, I think that's a way to summarize this. Do I hear some consensus on this? So I would suggest what we do is to come back next meeting with some concrete plans so that we can have a letter that we all will approve, modify, so that we can send it to the City Commission after the next meeting. Does that sound agreeable?
Yeah, and I would just comment, though, I think that we don't want to put something together that is too lengthy, right? And we want to be very precise. So, I'm looking at Mohsen's amendment thing. I like what this proposal does, and then the amendment would, and then it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullet points. I think that is a great, starting framework of what it needs to be. It's just very simple, and these are really good ones. I mean, maybe I'd change the order, change some wording a little bit, but that seems like a really good place to start with something fairly simple, because I just don't want us to get too far in the weeds of all the stuff. But if we just pull out that one part and okay, let's come up with 5, 6 bullet points of things that the new amendment would need to address. And I think that's the points that Mohsen has put there is a great starting point for all of us to start looking at, how would you tweak those? Does that cover everything? I don't know if you agree, Mohsen. Do you know what I'm talking about here with your?
Oh, sorry. I blanked out for a moment.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine.
What page is that on?
It's on page 2.
Okay.
So on page 2 of his, where you're gonna.
Can I just say, I genuinely, learning from the last time,
Yes.
knowing that this is a different context, but learning from the last time, knowing that per the January discussion, the actual, if it was an ordinance that was developed, the actual writing of that would be not done by us.
Correct.
And it hasn't even been drafted. So there's
Correct.
nothing that at the April 14th discussion, there's not going to be something sitting in front of city commissioners to review. It's just, we're at so early stages. I think, I agree, as clear of a recommendation that we can make in concise bullet points at this stage, the better. And so that, from my mind, that's us stating, we're all in consensus that we want to retain the ordinance and modify it, like amend it rather than repeal it. That we have heard public comment that supports that. So it's like here's what's happened. Then also, we recommend that when discussing the drafting, that certain things are taken into consideration, the 6 bullet points.
Okay.
And then a recommendation on actions, like what does it look like to actually work with the community to do this? Like, is the ask, the third thing, is it an ask to come back to us to leverage our expertise and our energy and our passion for this when that does move forward, or if, right?
To flesh it out some, is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, so that we don't get in the weeds now.
Yes.
And if they very clearly for the public, we make this statement as a board, we're supported by the community in this from public comment. Here's the things we want you to do. Here's how we think you should come back to us and engage us.
That's it.
Done.
Right, one
Yeah.
page.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then I think this is great, but like it's like okay, you want to do this well, so let's sit down and work through this. We have knowledge here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I know there's knowledge in the city too, so like bring it together.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Other people? Chloe, you good on that?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
In terms of like I know we have a little bit more time, but right, we go till 7:30.
7:15?
Oh, 7:15.
Is that right?
Until 7:30.
Oh, 7:30, okay.
In terms of the next meeting, like I feel like between now and then, we can draft, somebody should, like, I can volunteer again. I can draft that, or we can connect afterwards.
Okay.
But we can write that letter, we can put that on the agenda for reviewing and approving, amending. But I feel like we're all kind of in agreement now, so that's gonna take maximum 30 minutes. So I don't know if before we leave, we want to talk about what else we would want to talk about next time, or if people have other ideas.
So I feel like, and I just want to make sure you get this process right. Like, so I think we need someone to kind of take a first stab at it, and then it's great to like pass it around before the meeting. But I know, like, how does that work? That we can like look at it and
No.
we can't, right?
No,
We have to
last
do
time- Last time we had to bring it to the meeting.
meeting
and
to
workshop
work on it
the
at the meeting.
You'll get it, so you can get the draft of it, like, before the meeting.
Okay.
When the agenda's
It'll be
posted,
attached.
or.
It'll be attached, and then we can all
and
come with our
public sees
edits.
it At that
Yeah.
time. But we don't want to have like a email discussion.
Session or anything, but just as long as we all have it like a few days before to like go over it and
Yeah.
come ready to discuss.
But two of
Yeah.
us can work on it together, right?
Yes.
Okay. So,
That's what I'm saying, like, so if we work, it's gonna be one page, we all agree that this is our recommendation, here's what we want you to consider, here's how we want you to move, like, work with us in the community to meet those considerations. We agree to that form, we can draft it, we can post it to public comment, you'll have access to it early,
Yeah.
you'll come with your comments and edits, we'll workshop it, but I'm saying like, it's only one page and we're in agreement to the format, half of it's already written, we're gonna do it in 20 to 30 minutes and
Right.
approve it and submit it. So we're gonna have a whole other hour. So I'm just opening up, like, is there something else we wanna talk about in that hour? Or is that all we wanna do next month?
well, the other thing I think is we need to revisit the renter's utility piece, and whether or not we can get maybe Brad Finkeldye or somebody else from the city commission to come. I don't know. Is that a possibility? Is that something you'd be interested in? I mean, we spent a lot of time working on that. I think it's worthwhile pushing some more on it.
It helps meet the goal we're talking about, so.
Mohsen and I met with Christine Polian, and she was very enthusiastic about it. So I think it's worthwhile trying to follow up on that. We spent a lot of time on it. I think it's a great recommendation.
I agree to that being the goal, because again, it's like an explicit tie into what we're talking about. Here's an actual
Yeah.
mechanism to meet this
Yes.
ordinance that we're recommending. So I think we resurface it, and I like the idea of asking them to come to
So,
meet us.
so far, we've received interest from Commissioner Polian, Commissioner Hortony and Commissioner Sellers in discussing that further. And the mayor has been the very first person that directed this to the former SAB to be discussed. So if we can like invite like the mayor or Commissioner Dever to our board to keep that conversation going, that would be great. And I've also received interest from the Sierra Club to take parts of it to the state legislature to be included as part of the state legislation. So with that, it gives us like, this is something that professionals are interested in.
That's good.
I don't know the mechanism to do the invitation, but this sounds good to me. Too.
Kathy,
Who do you want to invite?
do we want to start with Brad?
It would be great.
I was gonna say, if people have expressed interest,
Because
I would go the approach of inviting anybody who's expressed interest, but maybe that's bad.
I don't know.
Can we only invite two, or can we invite more?
We already have communication channels
Oh,
with
okay.
them.
Yeah.
That was my reasoning.
I just didn't know if it'd be better if there were more commissioners present, having the discussion and hearing other questions being asked by other commissioners, or if we should just focus on one commissioner. I don't know.
is there a mechanism that they're supposed to just do one at a time, or how does that work?
I would need to ask. I actually have not had experience with 2 commissioners at an advisory board meeting, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened before.
Okay,
So I would ask the city clerk's office tomorrow how that works.
okay.
Sorry, just to clarify, are we inviting the ones that have been supportive, or are we inviting the persuasion targets?
Well, Brad Finkelstein, I brought this to Mohsen to start with, is that correct?
Yes, 2 years ago.
So I think revisiting it with him as the mayor
Sure.
makes sense, because we're already in communication with the other 2, and I think he would have more influence.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do y'all think?
That sounds great.
Okay.
But if there is a possibility for 2, who would be the second person? Just so I know.
What's your response from, I mean, what is the response from the people you contacted? Is there someone in particular you think might be?
I really don't know.
Yeah, I know, it's hard.
You all can say.
I would say, go ahead.
Okay, I'm a proponent of going after the people who you think are going to be the obstacles also. So if you have anybody that you could consider, you guys obviously know the city commission better than I do. Maybe the person, if you have somebody that's an advocate, then bringing somebody who you conceive might be somebody that would be a roadblock, or more or less enthusiastic, is probably a better way of saying it, I'm a firm believer, and I go after the people who are going to be the impediments first. Your allies are going to be your allies. I don't need to convince allies.
I don't know that we have allies. That's what I'm a little concerned about.
I would think that they're all interested in solving this issue, and I would hate to label one of our commissioners as an impediment. They're duly elected, so if we're already in contact with the other 2, then to your point of maybe trying to find someone else's opinion, the only other chair, available would be Mike Dever, who in 2008 appointed the Climate Protection Task. So I think, he was our last mayor, so let's get our last mayor and the current mayor talking about climate change and renewable energy and efficiencies, right? That sounds like a great discussion to me.
Yep.
I'll ask the question tomorrow
Okay,
about the 2.
okay.
And if they say just one, then
Then we'll go with Brad.
I'll communicate with you and let you know.
Okay. All right.
I do know that, at least outside of official meetings, you can only have up to 2. I think for the same reasons why we can't have more than 3,
Yeah, you can't.
or you can't have a quorum. But so I do know that at least in non-city meetings, you can't have two, but it would be interesting to clarify if there's any change for advisory board meetings.
But this would be
And
an
this is a
open
public
meeting.
meeting.
Right, so then that might not apply at all,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
So we'll find out. Good. Are there other topics that we want to deal with besides these two this year? We haven't really talked about topics. So the goals are solid waste and,
Yeah, we still have another.
Can I quickly go, if you're all done with
Yes.
item number one?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we have a little bit of time for
oh,
item number two.
okay, sorry. So we need 2 ESAB representatives for the solid waste planning discussion.
Let me just give a little bit of background, especially because we got 2 new board members, and maybe you might be interested, but you're not sure if you should put your name in the hat. But, so the City of Lawrence has been going through this solid waste master plan process with a consultant. It's Burns and McDonald, and it started, we're already like a year deep into it. And so what they're doing is really just looking at all the operations, that's involved, like all collection of trash, yard waste, recycling. They're looking at the operations of the compost facility. They're looking at the household hazardous waste facility. Just everything that's solid waste related is being looked at, including doing a waste characterization study of our trash. The last one was way, way too long ago, back in the 90s. So there's been a new waste characterization, which just means, samples of trash were brought to a building and somebody separated it all out and weighed it. And so we have the percentages of what was in the trash and what was in the recycling, just to see like contamination type of stuff. So all that has been done, and there's a lot of, the consultant has already gone through a lot of steps and has some information. Right now, we have a public survey that has gone out. It's through ETC, so it's going to be statistically valid survey where, they're going to need to make sure to get so many back. And that's just asking questions to Lawrence residents about trash service. Hopefully, those results are going to be part of these discussions. So the next stage would be, I think there's going to be like a targeted discussion meeting with some businesses, right? There might be some with, organizations like Downtown Lawrence and whatnot. But there is one specifically that we had talked about and reserved to be advisory boards or commissions, that would have interest in this topic. This one being one, Environmental Sustainability Advisory Board. Also, Food Policy Council has a lot of interest, and they've been asking a lot about where is it in the process, because they want to talk food waste and they want to talk compost. So this meeting will likely be set, it's not already, there's no date, I'm sorry. It's probably going to be set like in April, maybe May. But
Will it be a
I
single
say
meeting?
it's just going to be one meeting.
Okay.
To go over information and then get feedback from those that are participating in the discussion.
Okay.
So I asked for 2 representatives because sometimes something happens last minute, and I didn't want there not to be somebody from ESAB to try to fill somebody. So, and it's okay to have 2 people if you both show up, that's fine. I just wanted to have some backing in case something happens or the meeting date just didn't work for that one of the people.
Okay. Thank you. Volunteers?
This is having picked up trash, and I think this is in my wheelhouse, so I'd love to do it.
Okay.
I'd like to do it too, unless there's somebody else who feels strongly about doing it.
Joe and Nancy? And you don't need to take a vote on this. Okay.
All right. So we have 2 other goals that the city had put forth for this year that we had been talking about. One was solid waste, and the other one was, remind me, Kathy.
The 3 KPI priorities for environmental sustainability are number one, the solid waste, so waste minimization, right? Number two is the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and that's community-wide, not just operationally for city. And the third KPI that is a priority is on-site renewable energy for city facilities. So in the past, we were calculating how much of our electricity was covered by renewable energy, and you know the city of Lawrence does have an agreement with Evergy, or we are covering currently at 100% of our electricity use through the wind renewable credits. Now, that's not what this KPI is measuring. This KPI is measuring how much actual on-site renewable energy is at facilities. And we have very little right now, but we're working on new projects that will have, solar is,
That's the focus, is solar.
well, the projects that are coming online are gonna have solar, yeah.
Okay.
Just like the transit, came online with some solar. The MSO campus that's being built right now, that's gonna have solar. We're striving for, based on our sustainable capital projects policy that the commission had passed, even though the MSO campus was already in design at the time that that policy took effect, our staff has brought that project to be one that we're striving for LEED Gold. So that is, it's actually pretty close to meeting where we're supposed to be. So it was just, even though the design had already started, they've incorporated the LEED aspect into it.
Okay. And is that including solar?
Yes. Yeah, that building's gonna be wrapped up, I heard, by summer. And then there'll be a phase 2 of the MSO campus. So, yeah,
Okay.
there'll be more construction in that area.
So I would suggest that we try to think about what we want to follow up with those 3 goals. We will have the solid waste discussion. Joe and I can bring back what was from there, if we can follow up on that. But also the renewable on-site renewable energy, if we want to discuss anything regarding that. So, what other thoughts?
Just for those of you also new, for this process of the solid waste master plan, so the end deliverable is that the consultant is gonna have a, report on everything they worked on, and there are gonna be recommendations as to what the city of Lawrence can do we wanted the goals to be, efficiency in collection, but we also wanted to be able to reduce more of the waste that's going to landfill to either recycle or compost. So there's going to be recommendations, and that presentation is going to go to commission. At that time, and before it goes to commission, staff is going to come to you because we also need your support. If the recommendation is going to be, to start a food waste composting project, for example, I hope to be able to come to you with, information of, where the recommendation is going, and you all can decide whether you want to or not, to either, write some sort of a memo or letter, of support for the recommendations, or, maybe you don't agree with the recommendations, that can be true as well. But certainly, I would like to have, and this was always from the start of the process. I know last year this board decided not to discuss a lot of solid waste, knowing that it's this year where the recommendations are going to come out and where the full report. You want the data before you have the conversation, right? And this is what's happening now. The data is starting to wrap up. And so these next few months, hopefully, we'll have more discussions around it.
Okay. So that'll be something that we start with in a few months, because we won't have the information right away. Yeah.
But my understanding is it's still on track and it's still on timeline, so.
Okay. All right. Other recommendations?
I'll just reiterate, I'm still interested in working with another board, or maybe it's just our board, having a joint meeting around environmental justice goals. I don't know if that's safe and secure goals, and what other boards we would be in collaboration with for that, but we have if you go back to like the EJ screen maps, Lawrence has substantial neighborhoods that have serious issues, and none of our strategic goals tackle those issues. So I think we could, I mean, again, it's hard because I know it's not one of our priority, but it's just not a KPI, so it can't be a priority if it's not a KPI, so.
And aren't we
It is
rewriting
not-
KPIs?
It's not currently a KPI, but just as an update, again, I think I've mentioned this to this board, but again, the city of Lawrence is currently undergoing a process of selecting a consultant for the next strategic plan. So the strategic plan that will be drafted with community input is likely going to be one that will, be completed and, it's going to start date like January of 2027. So, there's still going to, we need to develop that with the community. So I can't tell you that it's going to be right away. But this year is when, once a consultant is selected, we're going to get started with all those conversations and then what it looks like to get community input, like that first strategic plan process. So boards are going to be asked for also your thoughts on what should be the priorities of Lawrence, right? So at that point, I mean, I would tell you that the reason why something's not a KPI is because maybe not enough people talked about it, so it didn't rise to the top. But if it's something, that you're energized about, and I mean, just make sure that your voice is heard and that comes up in the conversations of this new strategic plan that's going to be drafted.
Okay, so what you're saying is putting energy into meeting with other boards to identify additional KPIs for the current strategic plan is probably not a strategic move. And waiting for this consultant to come engage us at a meeting, and then we could voice what those gaps are. Or we go to a community meeting as a person of the community.
Engagement can be, again, this consultant that gets picked is gonna talk it through of what the full plan is. So I can't tell you they're definitely gonna come to one of your meetings. Maybe they are.
But we can invite them.
But there's going to be a lot of different levels of community engagement. There are going to be surveys. There's going to be where you can go to an open house. You can, whatever that is. So, I mean, and you can utilize as an individual, you can go and give, your thoughts. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for it. So we'll see what it looks like when we have that plan of how it's gonna, the timeline and how it's gonna be played out will be. We just don't have that right now, but yeah, I would want you to spend your energy on the new plan.
Yeah, I got you. Heard.
But I think also we could discuss what we think are gaps in the current strategic plan as a board.
Yeah.
And certainly write a letter
Yeah.
to the consultant, put in our 2 cents. So that's something we could put on a future agenda. All right. Well, I think we've hit our goal time, if there's time. Any other issues that we need to discuss? We will bring back a draft and hopefully have a meeting with the mayor next time. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.